Quake is a truly three-dimensional simulation of combat with some of the grooviest weapons you can get your hands on.
I know I've went through every 3D game that's out there. I'm very much a 3D game buff, and Quake just rules them all.
Now, how do you like the idea of being paid to play sport on your computer? UK's first cyber athlete is Cambridge graduate Sujay Roy. He earns a living increasing the body count in the computer game Quake 3.
I've been a gamer my whole life, but I started taking it seriously back in 1996 when Quake came out. That was the first time you could play online against anyone all over the world. It was just mind-blowing to me.
Basically, because I was already interested in like the burgeoning internet culture, when you found out you could play games over the internet, that was obviously a sick concept. You felt like you were in some futuristic realm in that regard, and so it was just, there was an addiction in that area. Like it was a new experience because you were playing against a real person.
When id Software released Quake in 1996, it gave players something they'd not experienced before: a true online first-person shooter and the first taste of competitive gaming.
Back then, obviously, there wasn't even a conception of something called esports. There was just sometimes people might put on tournaments.
Events were, well, let's just say they were a collection of people. It didn't really matter where we were kind of organising it ourselves. It was community run generally. The gaming was just as competitive, and players, I think, had the same attitude of wanting to win regardless.
1997 saw id Software host a tournament in Atlanta, whereby players competed to win John Carmack's Ferrari. A player by the name of Thresh took home the grand prize.
Just the concept you could win that in a game like Quake is mental.
Over the next few years, the series saw a meteoric rise in popularity. Players like Sujay were gaining recognition worldwide. The concept of professional gaming was becoming less obscure, and it was all thanks to Quake.
Quake was the only esport at the time. Quake was the only game that people talked about, but still it wasn't growing as we thought. The different versions of the games kept splitting the community up into segments that didn't play with each other, and that was a disaster. Just as it was getting popular, really felt like it wasn't going to be sustained.
A 12-year wait for a new Quake title had built anticipation within the community, but the announcement of Quake Champions didn't quite rise to the occasion.
When Quake Champions first came out, people loved playing Quake again.
The problem was, I could immediately tell by the changes they'd made. These are changes to appeal to the Overwatch crowd, to appeal to people who play League of Legends.
By changing the whole dynamic, it just didn't work, unfortunately. So there were a few mistakes made. Quake Champions suffered because of that, because there was a huge splash, but it didn't really hit critical mass.
At QuakeCon London 2019, Quake had a modest presence. But what does the future hold for the franchise that gave us our first taste of 3D environments, clans, and online multiplayer competition? The announcement of a remastered Quake 2, which boasts cutting-edge ray tracing technology, has stirred hope within the community. The reimagining of this old-school shooter again shows id Software's devotion to innovation and could be the right step in putting Quake back on top.